INFJs are known for being thoughtful, quiet, and deeply empathetic. They spend most of their time observing, listening, and helping others feel understood. People often see them as calm, kind, and even mysterious. But what most people don't realize is that INFJs have a breaking point. When an INFJ goes rogue, it's not about turning evil or mean. It's about reaching a limit. It's about being pushed too far, too often, without being heard or respected. And when that moment comes, the INFJ changes. They stop holding back. They stop people-pleasing. They stop waiting for others to do the right thing. This change doesn't always look loud or dramatic. In fact, it's often quiet, cold, clear. The INFJ becomes a different version of themselves, more direct, more distant, and more self-protective. This isn't a breakdown. It's a transformation. The INFJ going rogue means they've decided to stop tolerating what drains them. And they start taking action, even if it shocks the people around them. Some might think they're being harsh. Others might say they've changed. But the truth is, they've finally started living on their own terms. Let's take a closer look at the 6 things that happen when the INFJ goes rogue. Thing number 1. They speak their truth boldly. INFJs are usually careful with their words. They think before they speak. They hold back if they think their honesty might hurt someone. They'd rather avoid conflict than risk upsetting someone they care about. But when they go rogue, all of that changes. The INFJ who's reached their limit doesn't sugarcoat anything. They stop editing themselves to make other people comfortable. They stop avoiding truth just to keep the peace. And when they finally speak, their words cut through the noise. This shift usually comes after months or even years of staying quiet. The INFJ has probably been feeling disappointed, disrespected, or ignored for a long time. They've tried to explain themselves. They've tried to be patient. But nothing changed. So now they stop trying and they start telling the truth. They might call someone out for their toxic behavior. They might speak up about how hurt they've felt all along. They might reveal things they've been holding back for years. And while it may seem sudden to others, the INFJ has been preparing this truth in silence. This honesty is sharp but clean. It's not about yelling or insulting. It's about finally saying what needed to be said, even if it makes people uncomfortable. The INFJ isn't trying to win an argument. They're trying to reclaim their voice. What surprises people most is how clear and calm this truth-telling sounds. The INFJ doesn't need to shout. Their calm tone actually makes their message hit harder. People listen because the INFJ rarely speaks like this. So when they do, it means something. This new boldness doesn't just show up in personal relationships. It also appears at work, in family circles, or anywhere they've been holding back. If they've been overlooked at work, they might finally ask for what they deserve. If they've been mistreated by relatives, they might say exactly how they feel. This is a powerful moment for the INFJ. It's not about revenge. It's about self-respect. Speaking their truth isn't easy, but it's necessary. And once they've done it, they feel lighter, like they've dropped the weight of years of silence. When an INFJ goes rogue, they stop hiding their truth. And once it's out, there's no taking it back. Thing number 2. They withdraw completely. INFJs are social in a quiet way. They enjoy deep conversations, close friendships, and meaningful connection. But they also need a lot of alone time to stay grounded. Most of the time, they balance this well. They show up when it matters and disappear when they need to recharge. But when an INFJ goes rogue, this balance breaks. They don't just take time for themselves. They completely pull away. From everyone. Even from people they love. This withdrawal is not a break, it's a shutdown. It's what happens when the INFJ has been drained for too long without being refilled. They have given too much, stayed silent too often, and ignored their own needs for the sake of others. And now they have hit a wall. So they vanish. They might stop texting back. They might skip events without saying why. They may leave social media, stop answering phone calls, and cancel plans they once cared about. This isn't meant to punish anyone. It's how they protect themselves when nothing else works. Some people take this personally. They assume the INFJ is angry or holding a grudge. But usually, it's not about one person or one moment. It's about years of emotional pressure building up inside. And now, the INFJ needs complete silence to release it. This kind of withdrawal can last days, weeks, or even months. During this time, the INFJ is not just resting, they're healing. They're reflecting on what went wrong, what they allowed, and what they'll never allow again. They're cleaning out emotional wounds, and that takes privacy. If someone tries to pull them out too soon, by demanding answers or pushing for connection, it usually backfires. INFJs don't respond well to pressure when they're in this state. They need to know they're free to disappear without guilt. The longer they've stayed silent about their pain, the deeper this withdrawal goes. That's why INFJs who seem fine for years can suddenly disappear. It's not sudden to them. It's the result of slow, quiet suffering that was never fully addressed. Eventually they come back, but not in the same way. They return with new boundaries, new awareness, and a clearer sense of who's safe and who's not. And sometimes they don't come back at all, not to certain people, places, or situations. When an INFJ goes rogue, disappearing is their way of saying, I've given enough. Now I need to give something back to myself. Thing number 3. They set firm, non-negotiable boundaries. INFJs are known for being flexible and understanding. They often say yes when they want to say no. They give people second chances, then third, then fourth. They try to see the good in everyone. But when they go rogue, all of that changes. The INFJ who has been pushed too far stops bending. They stop explaining. And they stop allowing people to treat them any way they want. This is when boundaries get drawn, and they're not soft anymore. These new boundaries are clear, simple, and non-negotiable. Don't talk to me like that. If you show up unannounced, I won't answer the door. I don't owe you access to my time or energy anymore. These are the kinds of limits INFJs begin to use when they're done being walked on. What makes this shift powerful is how calm it is. The INFJ doesn't shout. They don't argue. They simply state their boundary and then enforce it. If someone crosses the line, they don't explain why it hurt. They just leave, block, or move on. This can shock people who are used to the INFJ being nice. They think the INFJ is suddenly being cold or dramatic. But the truth is, this boundary has been forming quietly for a long time. Now it's just being shown out loud. These new boundaries show up in all parts of their life. With friends, they stop being the therapist. With family, they stop playing the peacekeeper. At work, they stop taking on more than they can handle. The INFJ is no longer trying to keep everything together. They're trying to keep themselves together. And once these boundaries are in place, the INFJ doesn't backtrack. They don't soften them to make others comfortable. If someone doesn't respect the boundary, they're out. This is the INFJ claiming control. It's not about punishing anyone. It's about protecting their mental, emotional, and physical space. When the INFJ goes rogue, they stop asking for permission to protect their peace. They set the rules, and if someone can't follow them, they're no longer part of the INFJ's circle. Thing number 4. They stay silent and observant. INFJs are known for their ability to listen. They take in what people say, how they say it, and what they don't say. Even when others are talking too fast or saying too little, the INFJ is paying close attention. But when they go rogue, this ability becomes even sharper. Instead of sharing what they think or feel, they go silent. They pull back from conversations. They stop offering advice, comfort, or explanation. But they don't check out. They tune in more deeply than ever. This kind of silence is not passive. It's powerful. During this time, the INFJ is watching everything. They're taking mental notes on who's real and who's fake, who cares and who only pretends to, who respects their boundaries and who doesn't. They listen closely to tone, timing, and body language. It might seem like they're distant or zoned out, but that's not true. They're gathering information. They're seeing people for who they really are. This period of silence often comes after disappointment. The INFJ has probably said what they needed to say in the past, and it wasn't heard. So now they let their silence speak for them. Instead of explaining what went wrong, they watch how others behave. If someone truly values them, they'll notice the shift and respond with care. If not, they'll keep acting the same and confirm the INFJ's decision to step away. This observant silence also helps the INFJ understand their own feelings. It's a time for reflection. They might replay old conversations in their head, analyze patterns, and ask themselves, what am I really feeling? And what do I want next? It's during this time that major inner changes happen. The INFJ starts building emotional walls, not out of hate, but out of necessity. They stop letting everyone in. They start getting serious about who deserves their time. To others, this quiet phase can be uncomfortable. People are used to the INFJ being warm and open, but now they're hard to read. That's on purpose. The INFJ doesn't want to be figured out during this phase. They want space to think. They also want to see who sticks around when they're not easy to access, when they're not giving advice, when they're not playing the role others expect. This silence isn't forever. But when the INFJ finally speaks again, their words are based on everything they observed. And often, the decisions they make afterward are final. When the INFJ goes rogue, they stop talking and start watching. And what they learn in that silence changes everything. Thing number 5. They act to protect others even when they're in pain. INFJs still think about others. And one of the most powerful things that happens when they go rogue is this: they become protectors. This doesn't always mean fighting. It means stepping in when they see someone else being mistreated. It means saying no when others stay silent. It means standing up for someone who doesn't have the strength to stand up for themselves. INFJs can seem passive when things are peaceful. But when things get unfair, something inside them wakes up. Their sense of justice kicks in. And suddenly, they're not just protecting themselves, they're protecting the people around them too. This shift can surprise people. The INFJ, who used to avoid conflict, is now the one speaking up in a group. The one who stayed quiet is now the one calling out bad behavior. The one who used to go along with things is now the one drawing a line. They do this not for praise, but because they feel like they have to. Something deep inside them says, this isn't right, and they act. This protector mode might show up at work, in family life, or in close friendships. If someone they care about is being treated badly, they don't sit back. They step in. And when they do, they're clear, strong, and focused. This is part of what makes an INFJ so unique. Even when they're broken, they fight for what matters. Even when they feel alone, they stand up for others. And even when they're done with a situation, they leave it better than they found it. But here's the truth. Acting to protect others also protects the INFJ. It reminds them of who they are. It helps them feel strong again. And it brings a sense of purpose in the middle of emotional chaos. When the INFJ goes rogue, they stop staying quiet in the face of unfairness. They become protectors, not just of themselves, but of anyone who needs a voice. Thing number 6. They rebuild on their own terms. After the INFJ goes rogue, after they've spoken their truth, set boundaries, gone silent, and pulled away, there comes a moment when they begin to rebuild. But this time, they do it differently. They're not looking for approval anymore. They're not waiting for others to invite them back. They're not hoping people will finally understand them. They have moved past that stage. Now, the INFJ is focused on building a life that feels honest and peaceful on their own terms. This rebuilding process often happens quietly. The INFJ doesn't announce it. They don't post about it or ask for applause. But behind the scenes, they're changing everything. They might change their daily routine, their relationships, or even their environment. They might move to a new place, start a new project, or let go of old habits that no longer serve them. Every decision they make during this time is intentional. They're asking themselves, what feels real? What brings me peace? What relationships feel balanced? And whatever doesn't match those answers, they leave it behind. The INFJ doesn't rebuild fast. They take their time. They think deeply about each step. But this slow rebuild is strong because it's honest. It's based on their own values, not the pressure of others. This is also when they become more selective. They let fewer people in. They spend more time alone, not because they're lonely, but because they enjoy their own space. They have learned that not everyone deserves access to their inner world. They also become more confident. The INFJ, who once second-guessed everything, now trusts their instincts. They no longer explain their feelings to people who don't care. They no longer stay where they don't feel valued. They have been through enough to know their worth. This new version of them might confuse people who knew the old INFJ. Some may think they've changed too much. Others may think they've become cold or distant. But in truth, they've simply become real, without filters, without guilt. Rebuilding isn't about revenge or proving anyone wrong. It's about peace. It's about clarity. It's about choosing a life that doesn't drain them. When the INFJ goes rogue, the final thing that happens is the most powerful of all. They rebuild. Slowly, quietly, and completely on their own terms. INFJs are known for staying quiet, loyal, and thoughtful. But when they go rogue, everything changes. They stop pleasing. They stop hiding. And they start living with full awareness of who they are. It doesn't happen out of nowhere. It happens after they've been pushed, drained, and ignored for too long. And once that switch flips, they speak with truth, disappear to heal, set firm limits, and watch everything more closely than ever before. They also protect others, because even in their pain, then they still care deeply. And then finally, they rebuild a life that works for them. A life where peace, boundaries, and truth come first. This version of the INFJ may not be what others are used to, but it's the most honest version of them yet. If you're an INFJ, know this: going rogue isn't a failure. It's a turning point. It's your way of saying, I matter too. And from that moment on, you begin to live in a way that finally feels like home. And if you know an INFJ, don't fear the change. Respect it. Because when they go rogue, they're not falling apart. They're finally standing strong.